Good morning, everyone. How are you today? Hope that you are fine. Today, we are going to start our new novel for this year. Today, we are going to start knowing more about Oliver Twist. Oliver Twist is a novel written by Charles Dickens. But before we start this novel and knowing more about Oliver Twist, please let me give you a simple intro about the author, and also let me try to clarify what are the most important elements of any story or any novel. Actually, we have got 7 main items or 7 main elements for each story, which means that you are going to find them in any story or any novel. Starting from the title, which means the name of the book or the name of the story. And then we move to the author, which means the one who wrote this story or the one who wrote this novel. And then we come to the characters, which means all the persons or the animals that they are interacting inside my story or they are performing inside this story. And then we have got 2 items, and they are very important, related to each others, which are the problem and the solution. The problem actually means what causes troubles to the characters, and the solution means how the characters try to solve this problem. Why problem and solution are very important items in any story? Because through them you can find your moral lesson. You can find something that you can learn from this story. For example, if we are 3 characters and we just faced a problem, so what are we going to do? Of course, we are 3 persons, so we are different. We are not thinking like each other, so everyone has his own thoughts, his own, attitude towards the problem. So through this, you can learn something and you can get your moral lesson. And then after this, we move to the plot, which means every single detail inside your story. I mean, all the events and the details and the characters and the dialogue, everything happened in the story is just from the plot, as the plot helps you to recognize and understand the story and to relate each chapter to the next one. After all of this, we are going to reach to the moral lesson, which means what you have learned from the story. To this point, I think we have reached the end of the main items of any story, and I think I just remind you with these items. Now, moving to Oliver Twist, and the author of Oliver Twist is going to be Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens. Why we should know more about him? Would you please move with me to slide number 2? As here we are going to have some information about Charles Dickens. Yes, this is his picture. Actually, Charles Dickens was born in 1812 in England. He suffered from poverty when he was young, as his father couldn't earn so much money to pay for the family's bills. So, and according to this reason, all the family went, all the family sent to prison or to jail because they couldn't pay their bills. And for the reason that Charles Dickens at this time was only 12 years old, which means that he was very young, Charles Dickens wasn't sent to prison, but actually he was sent to work in a factory and live in one of its workhouses. I think this part of Charles Dickens' life is very sad, as he couldn't even feel safe in this workhouse. And let me tell you something. What is the workhouse? Actually, the workhouse was a building made for poor people in this time in order to work for a long time, and then when they back to this house, they can have little amount of food and a place to sleep in. Although the food wasn't enough and the place that they are going to sleep in wasn't comfortable even, but of course this was better than nothing for these poor people. Actually, Charles Dickens' job in the factory was to stick labels on the bottles, but after 3 years Charles Dickens was fed up with this job. So he decided to change his life, and he could find a job in an office, but although he couldn't earn so much money from the job, but he had a lot of friends. And actually having friends helped him so much in order to spend his time without being depressed because of not having a family. And we are going to move to an important period of time in Charles Dickens' life, which is going to start from 1833. In 1833, Charles Dickens started to write short stories, and actually his main idea was to talk about the poor children that they work or used to work in factories and live in workhouses, and how sad their lives were be. Actually, Charles Dickens started to write so many stories like Oliver Twist, David Copperfield, A Tale of Two Cities, and Christmas Carol, and so many other stories. But the most important one was Oliver Twist, which made him famous and also rich. Charles Dickens, after Oliver Twist, became a very popular person, as all the poor people felt that there is someone who is trying to tell the other world about their problem, trying to make their situation or their life better. So, and after a long time, Charles Dickens became the most important writer or author in the English history, and also he became very rich. Let's move to slide number 3, and you are going to find that Charles Dickens actually died on 9th of June 1870, and he was buried in Westminster Church, which was one of the most important places in this time. Actually, we are going to find that the life of Charles Dickens actually affected him very much, especially on his stories, as he had a common idea to talk about or to discuss, to show how the poor people suffering in England, how their life is very, very bad. And this is, of course, because he just went through this experience when he was very young, as he was very poor also, and he tried to work in a factory, and also he lived for some years in a workhouse. He had to work for a very long time and had nothing in return. So to this point, I think we just have a simple intro about Charles Dickens, and I want you please to move to slide number 4 in order to discuss more about the characters. But before discussing about the characters, I wanted to give you a simple introduction also about England in this time. Actually, Oliver Twist takes place in London during the Industrial Revolution, which means that England started to depend on factories and products made by machines more than depending on simple products made by hand or like handcrafts and so on, and also more than the agriculture. And for this reason, we're going to find that England in this time divided into 2 parts, very rich one and very poor one. Let's talk about the poor part of England. So many people used to work in factories for a very long time, and they had nothing in return except for very little amount of food and a very cold and uncomfortable place to sleep in. To this point, I think everything is okay and it's very simple, right? Okay, so let me tell you about another something that happened at this time, which was to divide the countries. Let me tell you the states or the countries or the areas in England to parish. So would you please tell me the meaning of the word parish? If you know, can you guess the meaning of parish? Okay, I will help you. Parish means an area, okay, which has its own community, its own church, and also its own man who is responsible for keeping the rules and make the people feeling a little bit safe by forcing them sticking to the rules. So this man was what? This man was the beadle. And beadle here means a man who is responsible for an area or for the parish. He was responsible for the adult people to make them sticking to the rules and make sure that everything went to the order that he just saw. And also he was responsible for punishing the kids or the disobeying children in the workhouses. Actually, the beadle used to wear fine clothes, and also he used to hold a long stick to punish the children with. I think now, and after this introduction about England, I think we are ready to meet our characters. Are you? Okay, so let's move to slide number 5 and start with Oliver Twist. Oliver Twist is an orphan boy or an orphan child, which means, what does it mean, orphan? Orphan means a kid or a boy or a child without having a mom or a dad alive. He was born in a workhouse, then he was involved with some thieves who tried to get him caught. Mrs. Corney. Mrs. Corney was the matron of the workhouse. She knows the truth about Oliver's mother, as she was the one who helped Oliver's mother to give birth to Oliver. Moving to slide number 6, as I guess, yes. We are going to meet Agnes Fleming. She is Oliver's mother. She died right after giving birth to Oliver. She saw him for just one time, for a few seconds only, and then she died. Mr. Bumble, he is the parish beadle. He got married to Mrs. Corney later on, and he helped Monks. Who is Monks? Actually, you are going to find that Monks was a half-brother to Oliver Twist, and half-brother means a brother from the same dad and not from the same mom. I said that Mr. Bumble tried to help Monks in order to destroy the gold locket of Oliver's mother that showed that Oliver has got a father, and also he shared Monks in his wealth. Let's move to slide number 7 with the artful dodger. He is a thief. He is a young boy who worked for Wagon. He found Oliver after he had escaped from the workhouse, and he had taken him to Wagon. Who is Wagon? He is an old man. He was very ugly. His face was covered with wrinkles. He was the head of a gang, and gang here means a group of criminals that do bad things to people. He had a deal with Oliver's brother to get the little boy caught by the police. Bell Sykes, he is a thief who worked with Wagon. He killed Nancy because he thought that she told the police about him. Charlie Bates, he is a friend of the Dodger. He worked for Wagon too. And we are going to find that through the story, Charlie Bates wasn't the bad boy. Sometimes he was a good boy to Oliver, and some situations told us that he was very bad to him. So he's not very bad and he's not very well also. or good person. Toby, he's a thief who worked with Bill Sikes. Nancy, a friendly-looking woman who worked with Vaughan and Sikes. She was also Sikes' girlfriend. She helped Oliver to escape from the gang. Mr. Brownlow, he's a very kind man. He took Oliver to live with him in his house. He helped Oliver to get his money from his brother, and he was also a close friend to Oliver's father. Monks, Oliver's half-brother from another mother, from the same dad, not the same mom. He wanted Oliver to be a thief, and he made this plan to steal Oliver's money that he had inherited from his father. Miss Maylie, a young lady who helped Oliver when he was wounded and asked her aunt to let him stay with them till he recovers and get very well. She helped Oliver to reach to Mr. Brownlow. Mrs. Maylie, she was Rose's aunt that agreed that Oliver was a good boy, and she agreed to have Oliver in her house after he had been shot during the robbery. I think now we have reached the end of the characters, and then let me please talk about the first scene on slide number 13. Let me talk about the first scene of Oliver's life, or actually of Oliver's sad life. The baby began to cry. He was so ill and weak. The baby's young mother saw him for the first and last time before she closed her eyes forever. They didn't know the name of the mother, and there was no wedding ring. They didn't know anything about her. Let's move to slide number 14. They decided to put the orphan baby in the workhouse, but something happened, and this was very important. Mrs. Corney, when she was preparing the mother to be buried, she just noticed that the mother was wearing a gold locket, a gold chain with a gold locket, as you see here in the picture. So Mrs. Corney took the gold locket off the mother's neck, and she put the locket and the chain in her pocket. What inside the locket, what we are going to know later, but let me tell you about the meaning of locket. Locket is a gold, what can I say, a gold box, okay, that you can find a picture of someone that you like, or something related to them, small note or something like this. So the mother was wearing a gold locket on her neck, and then this is very important thing to be remembered, as we are going to need it later in the next chapters. So to this point, I think we have reached the end of the intro. I hope that you enjoyed it. Let me meet you back in the next chapter. See you soon. Thank you so much for your attention.